the Shmaya put that's like who the Moisar was the Posasmi car and the pasuk from the Megillah at the end of the nest of Purim. It says over there that for the Yidden was light and joy, happiness, and glory. You do a diagram saying the same, but that's known. The question about our babe, the statement is that Megillah Bechlal, the pasuk of a frat, and in the Megillah in general, throughout the Megillah, and you can explain, you can go into a little bit more detail this a little bit later on, and especially this pasuk in the crime b'nei Yisrael b'nei Shem Yehudim. Yidden are called by the name Yehudim. Afal Pishacham Mishkum Torah. Though throughout the 5 books of the Torah, the Chaim B'Shar Navim B'Ksuvim, and so too in the other books of the Navim and the Ksuvim, the crime B'Kama B'Kama. Shem is Yidden are called by many different names. In general, the names are called by the name Yisrael. Gam Yaakov, Yeshurun, they're called by the name of Yaakov, they're called by the name of Yeshurun. And also, parenthetically, there are not quite names, as we would call it, as proper names, but descriptive names or nicknames. Okay, Nar, Yidden are called Nar Yisrael Aveu. The Goy, Yidden are called Goy Godel, Goy Ashel Kim Kroiv Melov. Different times we're called a nation. B'chol HaMegillah, the crime b'shem Yehudim, as opposed throughout the entire Megillah, were called Yehudim. Gamtar Lav Mashaychas the Ora v'Simchos Sasmikarim Amayim the Matzah Shabnei Yisrael. The crime b'shem Yehudim. Also, when you understand the what we described, that there was Ora v'Simchos Sasmikar, with the state and the situation that Yidden are called Yehudim. That Yehudim Ha'is Ora v'Simchos Sasmikarim. Why is it emphasized that Yehudim? In other words, there's a connection between Yehudim and them being called, of them being in a state of Ora v'Simchos Sas. Both concerning the literal explanation of what Ora v'Simchos Sas means, light and joy, etc. How much more so we need to understand according to what the Torah Sheba'al Peh explains. The Ora, what's it talking about? The light that the Yidden had, that's calling on Torah. Simchas, Yom Tov, the joy that the pasuk is referring to is Yom Tov. Sasan, the happiness, the Milah, it's referring to Bris, the Yikar and the glory, the film, it's going on at film. So for sure, it has to be connected with the beginning of the pasuk. She calls it kosher. All this is connected with the state and situation, specifically of being like Yehudim. Nasa la'achri kol mesh chazman shebnei Yisrael on the b'nesayin. This occurred that they had the Ora v'Simchos Sas Vikar after the entire time, for the long duration of time that Yidden withstood the challenge, the test that they had self-sacrifice, moving of Pashas Aksuvim, like it's understood from the literal explanation of the Psukim that we're talking about, that the Yidden for that entire year were ready to give up their lives. Especially according to what's explained in Midrashim, until the Mamarim, the Alter Rebbe, and the Mittler Rebbe, and the Chabad Rebbeim that took their place, that about the Mesiras Nefesh that the Yidden presented over that entire period of time, of the entire period, like the Alter Rebbe even says, that it was like also Machshavas Chutz, that did not even arise in their mind a thought outside of their devotion to Hashem. They didn't even think about giving up their belief in Hashem. The Rebbe says, what's the connection that only through the Mesiras Nefesh, only through what took place that entire year, so the Yidden came about in a state of being light and joy and happiness and glory, especially the spiritual ideas that we spoke about before, that the Chazal say. Third question that Rebbe asks, also when you understand about this, the Pashtus that simply put, it's in such a way that initially there was light, afterwards, more than that, it was joy. He said him as a sasa, and even more than that, there was the idea of sasa and happiness. At the top of page Vav, you say him as a, and even more than that, be a car and glory. Since we talk about that Torah is Torah, Hareza Koilo as Kolan Yanim Kulam. So then Torah includes all matters, in other words, all the things that we were saying up before, that step by step by step, all of that's already included in Torah. The Kivim Shalim and Mabel de Maisa, since study brings to doing, therefore they come about through the fact that there's the idea of light, which is going on Torah. Therefore, why, how can we say that one, they're increasing one from another if they're all included already in Torah, which is going on Torah? Oizbeis, page book. Doing the Kudus Abir, but that's known the point of explanation. This is Hine Hashem Yehudi, whom Hayda. The name Yehudi, even though the literal simple meaning is a person from the Shevet of Yehuda. Just like Yemini says a person that's from the Shevet of Binyamin is called Yemini. It says that in the Megillah, that Mordechai Tzaddik was Ish Yemini, a man from the Shevet of Binyamin. The same thing, Yehudi are Yidden from the Shevet Yehuda. But on a deeper meaning, the Chazal say, Yehudi is from the word, from the expression Hayta, admitting and accepting Hashem. The Isa Gemara, like it's brought down in the Gemara about the name Yehudi in the Megillah, Maikar le Yehudi, why is it called Yehudi? And the Gemara is trying to reconcile, why does it say, Ish Yehudi haya b'shushna birash my Mordechai and Shimi Mekishu Ish Yemini. He's saying he's Ish Yemini, he's from Shevet Binyamin. But then you start off, he said, he's Ish Yehudi. So he said, because Mordechai was called Yehudi, one of the explanations of the Gemara is not because he was from Shevet Yehuda, because Ray said he was from Shevet Binyamin, but rather Al Shem Shekafar B'Avodah Zarah, because he denied Avodah Zarah, B'Chol HaKover Avodah Zarah, K'moide B'Chol HaTorah Kula. Whoever denies Avodah Zarah, it's as if he admits Yehudi from the word admitting and accepting the entire Torah. So that's why it's called a Yehudi. Yehudi means someone that's the polar opposite of Avodah Zarah, accepts the entire Torah. So now the Rebbe says the idea of acceptance and Torah seems to be mutually exclusive. Acceptance means bittul. I'm not using my mind. I'm just putting my thoughts, my mind on the side. Torah is about study. Seemingly, it needs an explanation. The Lechura seemingly Torah's idea is about study and understanding and comprehension to such a degree that when the study is the way it's supposed to be, it occurs in such a way that the Torah is called by the name of the person that's studying. For example, it says, Zichru Torah's Moshe Avdi. Remember the Torah of Moshe, my servant. So it's not Moshe's Torah seemingly, it's Hashem's Torah. Yet, since Moshe Rabbeinu devoted himself to it, so therefore the Torah is called by his name. Same thing, the Chazal derived from that every single Yid, when he learns the way he's supposed to be, so then it becomes his Torah. How do we know this? Like it says, and in his Torah he will speak and delve into. Not b'Torah's Hashem, but it's called Torah Soy. It's in the beginning. It says Torah's Hashem Cheftzai, and then b'Torah Soy Yeged. So the Chazal derived from that. Initially, it's called the Torah of Hashem, but then it's called Torah Soy, his own Torah, and therefore there's a halacha that Rav Shemachal Akvoidik, by the Machal, Rav may forego his honor. Why may he forego his honor? Seemingly, it's not his own honor. The reason why we're honoring him is because of the honor of the Torah. But because it's considered his Torah, so now, since it's the person's own Torah, he can forego his honor because the Torah is like his. So we find that Torah is called the person's own Torah. Cain, Mashai was in Haida, if the way it's called my Torah is because I'm so totally joined with it through my mind, how can it be called? How can we use the term Haida, which shows on bittul and so on? It's the polar opposite of bittul. It's in such a manner that his intellect, his mind, forces him to study Torah. Since it's considered your wisdom and your understanding, it's even to the eyes of the nations, it's called your Torah. Like it says within the pasuk, that it's considered your wisdom and understanding to the eyes of the nations. So how much more so it's considered something wise to the Jewish person himself. So therefore, if it's something wise to the Jewish person himself, so then it's obvious and makes sense. It's logical to study Torah. And not just, is there a study that's in a vacuum, and the studies in such a way that brings to action. If that's the case, there's no need for him to admit in the entire Torah. He understands and he knows and he realizes why it's necessary to learn Torah. And therefore, if he knows that it's necessary to learn Torah and he understands why it's necessary to learn Torah, it's also all the resulting action that comes from it is as well logical. This idea that we say that is not said only concerning a minor person, a person that may not have developed and so on, etc. Moving, it's understood when the young are together until a true unity and oneness with your heads of the tribes. So then the heads of your tribes affect up and page Zayin. To elevate even the smaller ones to the levels of your heads of tribes. Then there's seemingly no room for Haida admitting in the entire Torah. In other words, the Rebbe is adding like another nuance over here. One could say, obviously, someone that's sitting and learning Torah, that's not an issue. He doesn't need like a shortcut. He doesn't need to come on to the idea of whoever denies Avodah Zarah, it's as if he's being made in the entire Torah. That's not who that Maimer Chazal is addressed. Maimer Chazal is addressed to a person that's not involved in Torah learning, a person that's a minor when it comes to Torah learning. For him, we say, you know what? Even though you're not involved in Torah learning, by the very fact that you are denying Avodah Zarah, you have the entire Torah. So the Rebbe says this Maimer Chazal was not said in a limitation. First of all, it was said for everyone. So therefore, first of all, this idea applies also by someone that is a Reshechem Shiftechem, someone that studies Torah and so on. And even by him, we say the statement: whoever denies Avodah Zarah, it's as if he's made in the entire Torah. Torah is not about Hidah. Torah is about study. Torah is about understanding. Then the Rebbe adds another component. Since even by the heads, and even by the great ones, and even by the ones that are studying Torah, Torah is about study. It's not about Hidah. It's not about Bittul. So when all the Yidden are together, even those that are minor when it comes to Torah study, even a Katan Shabi Yisrael, so by being together with the Reshechem Shiftechem, so then the Reshechem Shiftechem also elevate and raise up those that are on the level of Katan Shabi Yisrael, that even they can have the level of understanding in Torah, and it's not necessary for them to have the Haidah, the level of just accepting Torah in a way of acceptance, they are also raised up to a level of understanding. Therefore, whom is it addressing to? The Maimer Chazal when it says, no one needs to come on to this Hayda when it comes to Torah. Not those that have an understanding in Torah, and even those that are the ones that are minor in understanding of Torah, since they are lifted up through their achdus by those that understand. Any questions before we go on? Okay, top of page Zion, line 4. Now that I'm going to begin the explanation for all these questions. It's known the explanation of this. Torah Nosson V'Yorda Kamadar is the Torah traveled and descended many levels. Until it came to a state and situation that it's applicable by the Torah, an idea of understanding and comprehension. In other words, the component of Torah that makes it understood and comprehended is not the original state of the Torah. The original state of the Torah began in a place and a level that defies understanding. Then it traveled down, then it descended to come to a place where understanding applies. As it's known concerning the Torah derived from Chachma, says the expression, it comes out from Chachma. When you say something comes out, that means where it's revealed from. But its initial state is in a place that's not Chachma. But its state and situation is much higher than the level of Chachma, like it says by the pasuk, I will be by him a plaything before him. The essence of it's the idea of a plaything of the essence of the very being of the Eibishter Kechala Pirushim Bezer. So what does it have to do with being Chachma, not being Chachma? So he's saying, by the Inyan HaShashvim, the idea of an enjoyment and a plaything, it's the level of tainug, it's the level of delight. Tainug is the level that's higher than Chachma, even our Chachma the way it's by Hashem. Surely it's higher than the level of Chachma the way we understand the Chachma Torah. Balachas kama, how much more so when we say it's the Eibishter's plaything, it's so much higher, when it comes in such a way that it's the oil that's poured out for the sake of your name. So the Chazal explained, it's like someone pouring out something that has substance from one vessel to another vessel, meaning that there is an actual substance that comes down. The main emphasis is not the substance, the main emphasis is the descent. It's being poured from a higher vessel to a lower vessel. I know that behind us means the Torah, the way it is, with all the matters that are in it. Both the idea of wisdom, that's in it. We say it's your wisdom and understanding. And both the idea of its enjoyment and plaything in it. It's a plaything and enjoyable thing before you. Traveled and descended. Until it was enclosed in the combination of physical letters with ink on parchment. And afterwards it traveled down also into the oral Torah. Until even when a diligent student comes up with a new insight. So therefore that's another descent. There's all these different levels of the descents and the going down from vessel to vessel. Why do we say that even a novel insight, a new insight of a diligent student is a descent from the Chachma? There's no matter, it's not hinted in the Torah. So therefore, everything that a diligent student said has some type of source in the Chumash. Also, that Torah is found, all the different levels, all the highest most levels that we mentioned before is to be found in the ink on the paper and the level of the understanding of Torah, the way it comes down even in the understanding of the chiddush of a new insight. So the Rebbe goes on in the Yehudim, top of page Ches. That's what it means. Yehudim, from the expression of admitting and accepting. Admits and accepts the entire Torah. This means not only does the person find himself inside the state and situation, an unbelievable unity, that there is no such unity like it with like a person has the unity with the intellect of a Torah, which is called Chochmaschem, Binaschem, is called your wisdom, your understanding. How does that take place? How does that unity take place? Through the comprehension of the intellect of the Torah in a total, perfect manner, until the intellect of the person and the power and the person that has and possesses the intellect and the idea that he understands becomes completely one. This idea that's becoming completely one with the person and so on, that is a unity and a union with the wisdom of the Eibishter. Like to explain that length in Tanya. It's even higher than that. He's not just connecting with the wisdom of the Eibishter, but Kula means to say he is admitting and accepting and connecting the entire Torah, even that which transcends Chachma. Like we said before, Chachma is only where Torah comes out from, but really it has a higher source. That's from the perspective of a higher level in Torah. And that higher level of Torah, only the idea of admitting applies. It's beyond comprehension. It's not a level of limud. It's not a level of study. Where do we have that level that's beyond the intellect? This idea of the transcendent nature of Torah is to be found not just in the part of Torah that are specifically called super rational laws, they're called decrees. Even the part of Torah that's called testimonial or commemorative mitzvahs, like the mitzvahs of Pesach or mitzvahs of Shabbos, where we commemorate and attest to a certain event, which Chazal say that those are mitzvahs that we may not have come up with on our own, but once Hashem told it to us, it makes sense to commemorate our going out of Mitzrayim. It makes sense to commemorate the creation of the world with Shabbos. So, even the part of the Torah that's called the civil laws, things that are understood, so close, that's the general idea of your wisdom and understanding. In other words, it's a logical thing. It's something that we understand logically. It's a matter that has to do with study and understanding. But to such a degree is it considered understood, even the intellect of the animal soul can understand and appreciate it. Also in this, also the level of mishpatim, there's a level also of those things that are applicable to just admitting and acceptance. The Rebbe in many places explains the interaction and the hiskalus between chukim and mishpatim, the super rational mitzvahs and the rational mitzvahs. For example, in last week's parsha, the Rebbe will speak about that we include in the parsha of mishpatim, we include the super rational mitzvah of not to cook, not to mix milk and meat and milk. That is a super rational law. Why is it part of mishpatim? The Rebbe explains that even the super rational laws we have to do in a way of understanding, and the Rebbe explains different ways of doing it. The same thing, even the rational laws have to be done in a way of chukim. One of the ways is the Rebbe explains about what it says at the beginning of the parsha. It says, back to the previous parsha, mishpatim. And these are the mishpatim. Rashi says, why does it say ve'ela and these? And means that connects to what it says before. It says ve'ela moisif al rishonim. The ve'ela comes to add to the first to say ma rishonim b'sinai, just like Parshas Yisrael was talking about the Seres Adibris that came from Har Sinai. So Afkan also over here in Parshas Mishpatim, that seemingly you would think these are logical, intellectual laws, and maybe these are man-made, Chas Sholem. So he says also these are from Sinai. But Chassidus explains a deeper idea that Rebbe brings down, that Ma Harishonim Sinai Af Elu Sinai, just like the first ones I fulfilled, just because they are Hashem commanded us on Har Sinai. The same thing, the way I'm supposed to fulfill Mishpatim is not because it makes sense to me, but I have to fulfill Mishpatim because of their super rational nature, because they were originally began as something that's beyond reason. So in other words, even in the intellectual part of the Torah, there is still the level of super rationality. Also, other places that it brings down the super rational aspect of the Torah in the fact that even in the rational laws, there are components which are super rational. There's a law that it brings down in the whole explanation in Kunst in Yonash Chassidus by Moida Ani, discusses the whole thing that if someone owes you money, you cannot hold back a pekadon that you have, something that was given to you in safekeeping, seemingly according to the logical laws, you should be able to. In other words, even the mishpatim, and for sure the edus, there are many details of the mitzvahs, even though the general mitzvah, the Rambam, it's a word from the Rambam really, that even though the general mitzvah is logical, but the details of the mitzvahs are super rational. Meaning that in every part of the Torah, we can have that level of Eidah. So that's what he concludes now, line 18. That's the idea of why we are called a Yehudi. He brings the level of Haidah and Bittul into the entire Torah. Bahainu, this means Shebechol HaTorah Kula, in the entire Torah. Bechol Inyan Uprashaba, in every matter and every detail in it, even the Mishpatim part. Like Keach was an Inyan Shabai Shayach Rak Inyan Haidah, he takes hold of and connects with that aspect of it, that it's only graspable via Haidah. When he does not limit himself and says, well, the aspects of Torah that I can understand intellectually and logically, that I can deal with. Those aspects of the Torah that I cannot relate to logically, that's not for me. So that's what we're saying. He's moide b'chol Torah kula. In every part of Torah, there's a level that needs to have Haidah, and that's what a Yehudi is. A Yehudi takes and relates to the super rational component that's to be found in every part of the Torah. Any questions?